Do 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 do. Pottery lessons with Tim. Meow.
Okay, today we're going to talk about building a brush that is really hard to buy. So these are really long deer tail brushes. You can use other kind of animal hair. I find that deer tail is really easy to get a hold of, especially up here in the Northeast where a lot of people hunt. This is the very first brush that I have that is handmade. It was made by my wife. She did it in a pottery class, actually. It's a piece of bamboo split, hair was pushed in, glued, and tied around. We're going to do something a lot like that. Here's some other brushes. What we will need today: pair of scissors, Gorilla Glue, pretty sturdy thread, something that isn't really stretchy and is strong enough that we can pull on it without breaking it. We will need some bamboo. You will find that if you go to like the craft store, you can get some in like the decorating area. We want to cut it so we don't go all the way through. I don't know if you guys can see. Can I get this one? But this one goes all the way through, which means it'd be really hard to clean and store and everything, because if water gets in or underglaze or glaze gets in, it's going to be a mess. So we want one that has one end that is solid and the other end that is open. When you cut these up, you want to cut on the little node. If you cut right in the middle of the node, you can usually clean out one side and the other side is solid. It'll also stop your bamboo from splitting as you cut it. I used a jigsaw for that. And we got a few little options here. I probably will make a small brush, but we'll see what we cut off of it. And then we need deer tail. And you can get this from all sorts of different sources. This one is from LL Bean. So if you go to like Bass Pro Shops or any fishing store that sells fly tying equipment, you can usually find deer tail and other hides. The nice thing about these is that they're all cleaned up. They're tanned, they're salted, they're dealt with so that they're not stinky. You can get them also from your neighborhood hunter. I live in the Northeast, and we have a lot of people that hunt. This one is, animal that was taken for meat, and so not to waste. Not that I think that the LL Bean ones, but at least I know that this animal, it wasn't farmed or anything. Okay, and we need it. You need to find one that has the length of the hair that you want. If this is a really short hair, then you're going to end up having a short brush. This one I picked out because it has a very long hair. But we're going to finish using this one up. I do not have gloves on. This is really hard to do with gloves, so I will get sticky fingers from this. We're going to start just like the sponge on a stick by making pretty good lasso. Is it lasso? Something like that. With the string. Again, we're just going to make a little knot and then feed the end through the knot. So we have a little slippy thing here. Technical terms, I'm sure, abound for this, but that is how I do it. Boop, put it through there, and then put this aside where I don't lose it. It's really easy to lose these things, especially when they're the same color as the table. So I'm going to set that there. We're going to go, I think, with a small one. So with that, I'm going to clean out the hole a little bit. Make sure there's nothing that's going to prevent the brush from sticking in here when we get to use it. But I basically need this as a guide to how much hair I'm going to get. Let me take this little guy. And we say, okay, we know that hole's that big. And I can always grab another piece of bamboo. Normally when I'm making a lot of brushes, I'll just make a bunch of bristles and then match them to the size bamboo that I have. We're going to grab that, and I want to separate it from the hair around it. I want to grab just this stuff here. So I'm going to go around, make sure there's no other stray hairs from around there. I'm going to cut it as close to the hide as I can. Set that aside. Now, we got this, and I'm going to kind of prep this a little bit by pulling off loose hair. I'm going to pinch. I'm going to grab a little bit lower. I'm going to do that again. What I'm trying to do is get out any of the undercoat that we have, anything that's really fluffy. Because we don't want the fluff. We want the, I guess what would be considered the guard hair. And pinch it and just check it. So that's pretty clean. If we find any, hairs that are all crazy, bent or anything, we can pull them out now. You can cut them later, but it's usually easier to do it now. Then I'm going to take this. I'm going to kind of pinch it hard with both hands, give it a little twist so that I can grab it with my left now. I've got a good pinch on this. I'm going to take my Gorilla Glue. Might have had this open before this. I'm going to rub it into the bristles. If we miss, we don't get this all good and coated, then we can lose, or it'll shed hair later. We don't want it to be shedding at all. I've also tried not to get it on my fingers. So far, oh, I got it on my thumb there. Darn it. I'm going to take my little lasso. I'm going to tighten it up. Pass the knot there. Come on, go past the knot. Go past it. There you go. And I don't want to pull it tight yet. I think that's a big mistake to pull it tight right away. What I want to do is I want to wrap, going towards the end. Kind of pack this all down. Pack it all down. And then head back down, pulling it a little bit tighter. The glue is going to hold most of this together. This is just to make sure that it is nice, tight, and compact to fit in the furl. There we go. And this will foam up just like the sponge on a stick did. And we'll have to pack it back down. But because I'm holding it on with one hand and I can't really let go, this is a little different than the sponge on a stick, in that I'm just going to make like a loop by folding a piece over. I try to put it over without it undoing. I said put it over without undoing. Crap. I said put it over without undoing it. Like that. And then we're going to pull it tight. And hopefully that won't let go. And then I usually have something metally. You can see other past little experiments here. I'm going to set that on there and it'll absorb moisture from the air right now. And when it starts to foam up, I will put gloves on and I'm going to push it down so it stays tight and compact. And hopefully will fit in that hole. So meet you back here in like 15 minutes. Last step of the making the brush, super easy. We need to get this part wet to activate the glue. This stuff is pretty much set up. It's not all the way foamed up, but I've squished it down twice. I'm going to add some new glue. We can add quite a bit to this, hopefully, because where we push it down to is not going to matter much. I'm going to cut the extra string off now. I'm going to take that hole that's now wet, and I'm going to slide that in, mixing up the glue well. Might have got a little too much glue. Boop. There we go. And the extra, or the glue that's in there is going to foam up and stick the furl. It's going to expand and really squish it so it fills it up. And then after it's set up, I'm going to get a pot over there. I'm going to underglaze it, and I'll show you what the brush does. 'Cause I guess that's important to like use the tools and stuff. And then we got our finished brush. I also got a little black underglaze here, because I guess it's important to show the brush in action. So it is not made, you can see that they're kind of floppy. They are not made to paint little ducks and sailboats on pots. They're made to be loose. And I typically would just do patterns with them. The longer the bristle, the bigger your swishies are. So like when you change direction. and you drag, that the longer the bristle, the more this part gets stretched out. If you have different weights of things, you get different shapes. But those are all the personalities of the brush. So yeah, make your own, yay!